The sound of the wind tore through the silence, rattling the windows of the empty house as if it were alive, desperate to be heard. Alex sat motionless in his study, the soft glow of his phone casting sharp shadows on his face. The message on the screen was succinct, yet its weight was unbearable. "I need to step back for a while and figure things out." Emily's words echoed in his head, a cruel juxtaposition against the memories of their once loving relationship. For 7 years, they had built a life together, one Alex thought was solid and unwavering. Now those words felt like a wrecking ball crashing into the foundation of his world. Emily wasn't one to retreat from problems or keep secrets, or so Alex believed. This sudden detachment felt alien, a hollow echo of the woman he thought he knew. He replayed their last conversation for clues, trying to pinpoint the moment when things started to crack. But hindsight is often the cruelest teacher, and no amount of reflection could have prepared Alex for the revelation that awaited him. Emily's withdrawal wasn't rooted in confusion or a need for solitude. The truth was far less palatable. Her so-called search for clarity had already ended, in the arms of someone else. Alex's nights became long stretches of sleepless torment, each hour punctuated by the cruel voice of doubt whispering unanswerable questions. How long had it been going on? Did he miss the signs, or had he simply refused to see them? It was his mother who delivered the first blow. "Alex, I don't mean to pry, but something doesn't sit right. You should check her social media." He brushed off her suggestion at first. Emily wasn't one to flaunt their relationship online, much less betray it. But curiosity soon became suspicion, and suspicion turned into a need to know. When Alex finally opened Emily's social media profile, he was met with a peculiar surprise. Her posts were invisible to him. He convinced himself it must be a glitch, but doubt had already begun to fester. His heart sank when his mother forwarded him screenshots of what she had seen. The images told a story Alex never imagined he'd be part of. Emily laughing on a sunny beach, standing too close to a man Alex instantly recognized. It was James, the ex-boyfriend, the one whose name had been whispered like a ghost in the early years of Alex and Emily's relationship. The man who had cheated on her, only to beg for forgiveness when she walked away. Seeing him now, with her in the same picture, was as though a puzzle Alex didn't want to solve had suddenly fallen into place. The captions cut deeper than the image. Sometimes revisiting the past helps you find your future. Future? Alex's mind spiraled. Was Emily's future no longer with him? He didn't confront her immediately. Instead, Alex spent the next 3 days in a haze, a vortex of disbelief, anger, and despair. He didn't sleep. He barely ate. His thoughts were consumed with every moment they'd shared, now tainted by the shadow of betrayal. Was she thinking of James when they went to dinner last week? When she laughed at his jokes? When she kissed him goodnight? By the time Emily returned from her soul-searching retreat, Alex was no longer the same man who had dropped her off at the airport. She waltzed into their home, her arms laden with bags and souvenirs, her demeanor light and cheerful. "That trip was exactly what I needed," she exclaimed, flashing a smile so radiant it might have fooled him before. But now it only made his stomach churn. "I know where you went," Alex said flatly, his voice betraying none of the storm raging within him. Emily froze mid-step, her gaze snapping to his. "What do you mean?" "I know," he repeated, locking eyes with her. "And I know who you were with." The color drained from her face. For a moment, she stood motionless, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under his stare. Then she tried to recover. "Alex, don't do this," she said, her tone slipping into a practiced calm. "I told you I needed space. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," he snapped, his voice rising. "You went on vacation with James, the same man you swore was out of your life. You lied to me, Emily. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise." Her response was immediate and defensive. "It wasn't cheating," she said, her voice sharp. "We were on a break, Alex. The rules were different. I didn't think I needed to explain myself to you." Alex let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "Different rules? That's convenient, isn't it?" He paused, his tone lowering to a chilling calm. "You're right, Emily. You don't need to explain yourself to me. But you do need to understand something. I'm done. The word landed like a hammer, shattering whatever illusions Emily might have clung to. Done? She echoed, her voice rising in disbelief. Alex, it was just a trip. You're overreacting. He didn't respond. Instead, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone, her protests hanging uselessly in the air. 3 days later, Emily was served divorce papers. The finality of it hit her like a freight train. She called him repeatedly, left voicemails full of anger, disbelief, and desperation. You can't just throw everything away, she shouted in one. We've been together for years. I made a mistake, but this is extreme. But Alex had already made up his mind. Each call only solidified his resolve. She hadn't made a mistake. She had made a choice. While Emily raged, Alex began his own quiet war. Investigation was launched. Emily's colleagues began whispering her name, suddenly absent from meeting invitations. By the end of the week, she was called into the boardroom and handed a termination letter. Losing her job was devastating, but the fallout didn't end there. Her industry connections turned cold, and whispers of her unprofessional conduct followed her like a shadow. At the same time, James found himself the subject of scathing headlines. Alex had leaked documents to a journalist, exposing James' fraudulent ventures and unpaid debts. Social media erupted, and James' reputation crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. Emily and James were now facing the wreckage of their lives they had carefully curated to appear untouchable. Emily's social media accounts, once filled with curated snapshots of her polished life, turned into battlegrounds of scorn and ridicule. Former admirers turned on her, flooding her posts with comments like, "Integrity matters," and "Looks like karma finally caught up." James, on the other hand, found himself embroiled in lawsuits he couldn't outrun. Alex's anonymous funding ensured that every wrong client, every unpaid contractor, had the resources to pursue justice. The details of his scams became public knowledge, and as his legal troubles mounted, his professional circles turned their backs on him. For Alex, the satisfaction of seeing justice unfold wasn't rooted in cruelty but in the restoration of balance. Emily and James had made their choices, and now they were reaping the consequences. But Alex wasn't obsessed with their downfall. He was focused on reclaiming his own life. He reconnected with old friends, people he had drifted from during his marriage. Nights once filled with loneliness were now spent laughing over dinners and rekindling bonds he hadn't realized he missed. Through this circle, he met Isabel, a graphic designer with a quick wit and a warm smile. Isabel's presence in Alex's life was like a breath of fresh air. She was candid, grounded, and authentic, qualities that Alex now valued more than ever. Their conversations were effortless, their connection immediate, unlike his relationship with Emily, which often felt like a performance. Being with Isabel felt real. As their relationship blossomed, Alex found himself rediscovering parts of himself he thought he'd lost. His love for painting, abandoned in the chaos of his marriage, returned with a fervor. Isabel even joined him in his makeshift studio, encouraging him and sharing her own creative ideas. Months passed, and Alex felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Then, one evening, his phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from Emily. The text was short and pleading. "Please, I need to talk to you." Against his better judgment, Alex agreed to meet her. They chose a neutral location, a coffee shop tucked away on the quieter side of town. When Emily walked in, Alex was struck by how different she looked. Gone was the confident, polished woman he had once loved. In her place stood someone who seemed worn, almost fragile. Emily wasted no time. "Alex, I've lost everything," she said, her voice trembling. "My job, my reputation, even James. He left when things got hard." Alex listened silently, his face impassive. She continued, her words spilling out in a torrent of regret and desperation. "I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes. But I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to move forward." When she finally paused, Alex leaned forward. His tone was calm, measured. "Emily, you made your choices, and now you're living with them. I'm not here to fix what you broke." Her tears fell freely, but Alex didn't feel the sting of guilt or the pull of pity. He had mourned their relationship, grieved for what they had once shared, and moved on. Now, as he watched her crumble, he realized he felt nothing but relief. When their conversation ended, Alex left the cafe without looking back. Emily's pleas echoed faintly behind him, but they held no power over him anymore. His life was no longer tethered to hers. Alex's focus shifted entirely to his future. Isabel became an integral part of his life, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. She brought light into his world, filling the spaces that Emily's betrayal had left dark and empty. Together, they built a life that was rich with love and creativity. They spent weekends exploring new hiking trails, afternoons collaborating on art projects, and evenings cooking meals that filled their home with warmth and laughter. One crisp autumn morning, Alex decided to take Isabel to a secluded spot in the woods, a place he had discovered during one of his solo hikes. The leaves had turned to fiery shades of red and gold, and the air was alive with the scent of earth and fallen foliage. As they stood on a ridge overlooking a tranquil lake, Alex took her hand. "Isabel," he began, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his chest. "Being with you has made me realize what love is supposed to feel like. I don't want to imagine my life without you in it." With that, he pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a delicate ring. Isabel's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, her smile radiant. "Yes, Alex," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "1,000 times, yes." Their engagement marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope and promise. As they celebrated with friends and family, Alex couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. The day of their wedding was nothing short of magical, held in a sun-drenched meadow surrounded by their closest loved ones. The ceremony was a testament to the love and resilience that had brought them to this moment. As Alex and Isabel exchanged vows, he looked into her eyes and saw a future untainted by the pain of the past. For the first time in years, he felt completely free. The months following their wedding felt like a dream, but it wasn't the fleeting kind. It was the kind of life Alex had always wanted but never thought he'd find. He and Isabel settled into a cozy house filled with light, laughter, and art. Isabel's graphic design business flourished, and Alex's renewed passion for painting turned into a side career. Together, they transformed their shared studio into a sanctuary of creativity and joy. Alex often marveled at how different life felt with Isabel. Their love wasn't performative. It didn't require constant effort to prove its validity. It was simple, honest, and unwavering. Emily became a distant memory, though her shadow occasionally reappeared. One day, Alex bumped into a mutual acquaintance at a local gallery. "Did you hear about Emily?" the man asked, his tone low and hesitant. Alex shook his head, uninterested. "She's working at a small nonprofit now. Apparently, James left her high and dry, and she's had to start over from scratch." The words lingered briefly in Alex's mind, but they carried no emotional weight. He wished her well, but she no longer occupied a place in his thoughts or his life. James's downfall, on the other hand, became headline news. Alex had quietly ensured that the authorities were aware of his ongoing scams, and the investigation culminated in his arrest. It was a high-profile case, with reporters digging into every sordid detail of James's fraudulent schemes. The sight of James's mugshot on the news gave Alex a fleeting sense of satisfaction, not from revenge, but from knowing justice had prevailed. It was a reminder that actions have consequences, and no one was immune to accountability. As Alex's life with Isabel flourished, their adventures expanded beyond their studio walls. They traveled to places Alex had only dreamed of, the cobblestone streets of Europe, the lush rainforests of South America, and the serene temples of Asia. Each trip was a testament to their shared love of exploration and the unbreakable bond they had built. On one such trip to a quiet mountain retreat, Alex found himself reflecting on his journey. The betrayal that had once consumed him now felt like a distant shadow. Isabel noticed his contemplative expression and squeezed his hand. "What's on your mind?" she asked softly. "Just thinking about how lucky I am," he replied, smiling. "To have this. To have you." Their life wasn't without its challenges, but those challenges only strengthened their connection. When Isabel's father fell ill, Alex was by her side every step of the way, offering support and comfort. When Alex faced setbacks in his work, Isabel reminded him of his resilience and encouraged him to keep pushing forward. Through it all, they proved that love wasn't about perfection. It was about partnership, about weathering storms together and emerging stronger on the other side. Years passed, and their love story continued to unfold. They welcomed 2 children into their lives, a boy and a girl, who brought a new kind of joy and chaos into their home. Alex found himself rediscovering the world through their eyes, marveling at their boundless curiosity and unfiltered laughter. He often told them bedtime stories inspired by his own life, carefully omitting the painful chapters. Instead, he focused on lessons of kindness, resilience, and the importance of staying true to oneself. One day, as Alex was organizing old files, he came across a folder labeled Closure. Inside were all the documents and evidence he had collected during his investigations into Emily and James. For a moment, he considered shredding them, but something held him back. Instead, he placed the folder in a box and tucked it away in the attic. It wasn't out of sentimentality, but as a reminder of how far he had come. That chapter of his life was over, but it had shaped the person he had become. Emily crossed Alex's path one final time at a community fundraiser. She was volunteering at the event, a quiet humility replacing the confident persona she once exuded. They exchanged polite nods but didn't speak. Later, as Alex watched Isabel laugh with their children from across the room, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. He didn't need Emily's apology or validation. He had moved on long ago, and his life was proof that healing and happiness were possible after heartbreak. Alex and Isabel continued to build a life rich with love and purpose. They celebrated milestones together, from their children's graduations to their own personal achievements. Their home became a hub of creativity and warmth, a place where laughter echoed through the halls and every room told a story. Alex often reflected on his journey, not with regret, but with gratitude. The betrayal that once threatened to break him had instead become the catalyst for a life he wouldn't trade for anything. On a quiet summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex and Isabel sat on their porch, watching their children play in the yard. The soft hum of cicadas filled the air, and the sky was painted in hues of orange and pink. Alex turned to Isabel, his heart full. "I never thought life could be this good," he said softly. She leaned into him, her eyes shining with love. "It's because you chose to make it good, Alex. You didn't let the past define you. You built this." As they sat together, wrapped in the warmth of their love and the life they had created, Alex knew she was right. The scars of betrayal were still there, faint reminders of the journey he had traveled, but they no longer hurt. They were part of his story, a story of resilience, redemption, and the power of moving forward. And for Alex, that was more than enough.